Hello and welcome to the studio here at European Utility Week. I'm joined now by Andreas Umbach. Andreas, it seems like we meet every year in the studio, but in a good way, because I always enjoy talking to you. Welcome to the studio and thanks for taking the time out. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening with the sort of grid utilization out there that you're seeing in the marketplace?
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me. You're right, it's correct. We meet every year. To me, it feels it's every 3 months. Time seems to be flying. It's great to be here. Let me answer your question. I think this exhibition is a good reflection of what's happening. Is you see an increased number of participants, more exhibitors. I think we are 30% up against previous year.
Yep.
And that's a reflection of what's happening in the industry. And you see that digitalization is really making an inroad. I mean, nobody is debating or questioning whether smart grid makes sense. It is there, and the number of players active in it is increasing. And what you see these days on the exhibition is also there's a lot more of an emphasis on the data side of things. So data analytics, smart data, that's what you see, and that's what's happening these days.
And that's one of the things that I've noticed is, so 3 years ago there was a lot of talk about metering, more metering, and now when you look around, there's people talking about IT/OT convergence, all this exciting stuff, which seems, seems incredibly exciting, but it must be causing a headache for the utilities because there are now so many variables that they need to consider and how they're making the right decisions for the future.
I can see how utilities can get easily confused with such a wide range of technologies. I like the fact that there's a wide range of technologies because it gives our customers choices and you can also differentiate. I tend to advise utilities think in 2 steps. You start with the base investment, your smart metering network. You just have to make sure that your network is powerful enough and open enough so that you can later on automate other parts of your grid. So if you think in 2 stages, you start with smart grid and then you add functionality or you focus on that areas of the grid where you have need for automation or a monitoring system or whatever it is, you can easily integrate in that. So if you think about it like that, if you look at what you do in the metering side and then smart grid functionality, you already have a structure to think about the future.
So one of the things that still surprises me is when you look at the metering, and let's put meters into context. They're sensors, which allow you to manage things more effectively and so on. But yet again, I see this thing of like actually we're not moving fast enough on the deployment of and things like that. It's like, what's slowing this whole thing down? Why are people not falling over themselves to invest in this technology to create sort of fit-for-purpose, future-proof businesses?
Let me give you 2 answers. First of all is what is promoting it, what is pushing it, and then I like the question of what is slowing it down. What is great on the pushing it is, if you look back 5 years and look where you are today, you will not find a single utility which is not looking into technology roadmaps, planning the future, considering smart grid and looking at their choices. They all have project teams, they have consultants, they're all, one's more active, one's less, dealing with it and they're planning about the future. And that is a great starting point. To the second part of your question, what is slowing it down? It's a very simple answer. It's uncertainty, and it's related also to the economic health of utilities. In Europe and in some European countries, we still have not really recovered from the recession of the financial crisis. There's still, look at the Mediterranean countries, uncertainty, economic growth varies by country. That's never a good starting point for utility. It gets compounded by the impact of renewables. As much as we like renewables, also from a technical point of view, because it transports, creates complexity, decentralization. We as a technology provider will love that. From a utilities point of view, it has dramatic impact on their business models. If you are one of the large utilities and you have a park of nuclear power plants or large coal plants, you have a good reason to be worried economically. You need to transform from a big, call it monolithic structure into a more decentralized, renewable company. And the economic transformation is huge, creates uncertainty. And in that context, making bold moves on technology is not trivial. And it's that part that is slowing it down.
Because there was recently, RWE posted a loss for the first time in God knows how long and things like that. So, are we, with the renewable conversation and the way it's being done with things like feed-in tariffs, etc., are we sort of killing off the very entity that needs to survive and thrive to enable this new world?
Well, there is a big economic transformation needs to happen. It's a restructuring process. They tend to be very expensive, and I'm sure we've figured out how to do that exactly. And that economic uncertainty is what slows down coming back to smart grid and digitalization, makes it more difficult for those utilities to make now bold moves and big investments. They have bigger and more urgent topics, more unpleasant in nature, than to be betting the company on smart grid, and that's probably number one factor slowing it down.
And if we can dwell on that just for a little time, I mean, what is the sort of structural framework that needs to be fixed to kind of help these companies get back to a place where they can start thinking strategically rather than thinking from a point of fear almost? It's like going, well, hang on a minute, I'm not going to put any of this stuff in because I don't know whether I'm going to be making enough money.
I'm at risk of moving into politics now.
Right.
Let me give you a very brief answer. I think you will have, if you want to push certain technologies, as terrible as it sounds, subsidies is always a good driver. Yeah. And we have seen how subsidizing photovoltaic or wind accelerate those technologies. Yeah. What the political system has not figured out is how to deal with the legacy. How do you help a big utility who has, as I said before, a big park or very large power plants and wants to transform into something different? How do you help them? Yeah. That's what hasn't been solved.
We'll move away from the politics side of things quite nicely. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because I've been watching what's happening with Landis+Gyr, your collaboration with Toshiba, but you've made some really interesting acquisitions of recently. And so can you tell us a little bit about the idea behind those? And you don't make acquisitions, just for the fun of it. You've got some sort of roadmap, and you're starting to see a market demand or something like that, and you're reacting to that. Can you just give us a bit of insight of, why and what the market demand is as well?
Okay. Our ambition is to be the leader in smart grid solutions. We're already the world leader in smart metering solutions, and what we keep adding is functionality in things that are modular and fit well into a smart metering network. And that's where the collaboration with Toshiba focuses on. We have a very large R&D organization, the industry's largest. We have close to 1,300 engineers in 22 R&D centers distributed across the globe working on these. And they're all very much focused on solutions that are commercially viable within 24 months. So we tend to focus on short-term or medium-term utility needs. We tap into acquisitions. We use the tool of buying startups when we find topics and solutions that are more mid to long-term. When we move into the world of data analytics, for example, we didn't think it made sense to start developing from scratch. We observed quite a number of startups, being in touch with them for a long time, and when the time is ready, we make acquisition of that nature. So the idea is to expand our portfolio through acquisitions, technology acquisitions. We look at companies, and when they reach technological maturity and a proof point that their solution works technically and commercially, we like to buy them, and then our role becomes to scale them, integrate them into our portfolio, and to scale them globally. And yes, you will see us trying to identify the right trends, which is not easy in smart grid because so many different fields. A few years ago, everybody was very excited with electrical vehicles. Then it went down, now it's coming again. So that's how we deal with these situations. We want to make sure we have enough players in our portfolue so we get all those trends.
So it seems to me that you're, and don't take this the wrong way, but you're wanting to, you're moving up the stack. You're becoming a services organization, aren't you? Or is that what you do?
We have been a service organization for many years. We operate 20 million meters in the US for utilities. So we've always had service in our portfolio. We'd love to do more of that. We have our strategy is based on a very modular approach to utilities. We can sell a meter only, communication technology with a head-end system all the way to a smart gridding solution. We can even operate them for the customer. So we have the full choice. But we do see more potential in the future in the service area, and that's why we're adding technology to widen the offering
and the data analytics side of things.
We made 2 acquisitions recently. One was in the area of data analytics, a Gradient. We've integrated it into our booth also to show utilities what they can do once they start churning smart metering data. There's a lot of indirect and direct benefits you can capture from that. It requires more horsepower on the IT side, which is what you can do with the GridSense portfolio. And we've also, if you allow me to say, also bought a sensor company, PowerSense, which helps utilities monitor voltage and frequency fluctuations, which is normally the problems that you have when you deploy renewables, and that's a retrofittable solution that can also integrate into a smart metering solution.
And all of that is again bringing me to the point, and we kind of touched on it at the beginning. It's just like these buzzwords of IT, OT convergence, and I mean, how real is that desire? Because sometimes when you, and let's face it, this is a technology show at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And at all technology shows, everybody jumps on a particular term and goes, hey, it's about this and this and this and this. But, what's the customer driver that has caused the industry to suddenly go OT convergence is it? And I'm focusing on a point thing, but I'm trying to get to the bottom of what the real requirement is out there for all this technology.
I think in many ways you're right. There's always a risk of marketing message trying to create a future. They're real though. I just used the example before. If you deploy renewables, that has a major impact on your network. These networks were designed as one-way roads. They were not designed for bilateral traffic. You deploy renewables, you will have to monitor frequency and voltage of your network in that area. So there's pockets like that where there is a real need today and a desire to execute. That's more on the utility side. I play back the question to you. Do you believe in electric vehicles? Do you believe that residential customers will all fall in love with the solar panels? Do they want to automate them? I do see opportunities in that area, and it will happen. It is utility, it is energy, it is a regulated sector. It's not the iPhone 6 that explodes overnight in terms of growth. It is the energy sector. Things take longer, but the trends are visible, and we very much believe in that.
And just coming to the end of our time here is, do you believe that the utility industry is ready for that explosion? Because there's been a lot of commentators who are saying that, okay, PVs and energy storage don't follow fuel prices, they follow Moore's law. They're going to hit a point where there will be a sudden explosion at some tipping point. Do you believe we're moving fast enough to build the framework to accommodate that?
I think utilities are ready, whether sometimes on the brakes is more on the regulatory side and understanding, but the minute they solve their model or they know how to deploy something technology, how to make money with it, they tend to be quite fast in execution. I think it's been a tremendous trend in the last years. You see a lot of utilities hiring IT people, hiring people out of the comm sector. I do think most of them are really ready and willing to press the accelerator. It's more on the economic or regulatory side.
We're just going to get the regulators to kind of move a bit faster.
They have a very challenging job these days.
I'm not belittling it. I'm not belittling it. Andreas, it was nice to meet you again, and thank you as well for watching. And we hope you enjoyed this this interview, and there are many more from European Utility Week on the Engerati website. Thanks again.
Okay. Thanks, Adam.